Hardeep Singh Nijjar was killed in June, shot by two masked gunmen outside this temple in Surrey, BC, where he was president. The police said Nijjar was targeted, and right away, some community members pointed the finger at India.
This this assassination needs to be investigated thoroughly. We have, once again, strong suspicions that this is foreign interference in Canada.
Nijjar was a prominent Sikh leader, a loud voice pushing for the creation of a separate Sikh nation called Khalistan in India's Punjab state. Supporters of Nijjar and the Khalistan movement across Canada and in other cities around the world protested his killing.
He really championed the cause of human rights, and he really had a great contribution to the society.
He stood up as a loud voice, as a beacon of courage.
But to the Indian government, Nijjar was a terrorist, alleging he was involved in a 2007 bombing in Punjab, which Nijjar denied. The World Sikh Organization released a statement accusing India of being a terrorist state. It has brazenly engaged in extrajudicial killings. There are other Sikhs in Canada who face an ongoing threat to their lives. Every possible measure must be taken to ensure their safety.
1984.
The fight for the creation of Khalistan was at its height in the 1980s. Violence between Sikh separatists and the Indian government rocked Punjab state, killing thousands. With Nijjar's killing and India accused of carrying it out on Canadian soil, those long simmering tensions are again inflamed.
A lot of questions remain here about what happened and what happens now. So to help us break it down is Jessica Davis, a former CSIS intelligence analyst. She's in Ottawa. So Jessica, can you walk us through what needed to happen between the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar to the Prime Minister accusing a foreign country, in this case India, of helping to murder a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil?
The way that I see this and how this probably happened is that there was actually probably parallel investigations ongoing. So as soon as I saw who was murdered, it immediately sprang to mind that this could potentially have some element of foreign interference to it. Obviously, I'm not alone in that supposition. So what ended up happening is that there was likely a murder investigation ongoing by the RCMP into the actual events that happened in British Columbia. And at the same time, Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS, was likely also conducting a fact-finding investigation potentially into foreign interference, to basically figure out who might have ordered this targeted assassination.
Can you put some perspective on this for us? How unusual is this moment? How unusual was it to see the Prime Minister do what he did today?
It's extremely unusual for the Prime Minister to stand up in the House of Commons and say anything about foreign interference, let alone be so specific about what country we're talking about. And then to tie those actions to a murder or a targeted assassination in Canada is, I would argue, unprecedented. We do have a history of expelling diplomats who we think are conducting espionage activities, but that's often done quite quietly, mostly behind the scenes with a minimal press statement. So it's really quite an unusual day today.
And I guess that leads people to wonder, given that, what happens now? I mean, Canada just expelled the head of Indian intelligence in Canada. How does this country move forward with bilateral relations?
Expelling the head of Indian's foreign intelligence in Ottawa, so the research and analysis wing here, is what I would argue an extremely proportional step. So this is exactly what needs to happen in this kind of situation. India will try to get someone else in to fill that role. Foreign Affairs will make decisions about whether or not that person will be accredited to the High Commission. This is going to put a serious damper on things like trade, well, not necessarily trade, but things like technology transfers, sharing of information. Certainly the intelligence sharing relationship will be curtailed further than it already had been. So there's some serious repercussions for the Canada-India relationship.
One last thought. I'm just curious, from a security perspective, we hear Iranian dissidents, for example, tell us stories of being targeted here, afraid here, Saudi teams being apprehended at Canadian airports. What's the perception of Canada? Because they tell us they feel like Canada is perceived as a bit of a mark in that sense.
I think it's very clear that states think that they can operate with absolute impunity in Canada. A state's first move in foreign interference is not a targeted assassination. There's almost certainly been plenty of other foreign interference activities being conducted in Canada by India, likely targeting the Indian diaspora community. So there are people that we really need to be listening to at this point in time to understand the scope of that activity. But it's certainly been the case over the course of the last few years that many countries have been operating with relative impunity in Canada. We have been weak on foreign interference in this country. We've taken a few small steps to make ourselves more resilient against this threat, but we have a long way to go, as this particular incident demonstrates.
All right, Jessica Davis, thank you for breaking all this down for us.
Thank you very much.